anybody need the Discord link?
Is there a?
No. Well, there's a channel within Hack.
Okay.
But it's just the main one.
Okay.
Yeah, it's linked on the website.
You can select it when you select roles and rules. Okay, does everybody have the sign-in sheet already? Everyone signed in? Okay, and there's also a link to the slide's QR code, and I'm also going to send in general. Okay, you should be able to see that in general. Give me a thumbs up if you can see it in the Discord. Let's see, a couple thumbs up, thumbs up. Yeah, and if you need it, you can also scan the QR code. And if you have a Mac, you can probably just copy that link from your phone to your Mac. And if anyone's having any troubles, you can feel free to let us know and we'll help you out. Does anybody else still need the slides? Okay. Welcome. Hello, hello. Okay, alrighty, we're gonna get started then. Okay, so very first, what is Hackschool? Why are you all here? Hackschool, basically to give you a big overview, is going to be a 7-week hands-on workshop series that for complete beginners. It's going to be taught by UCLA students like me and Jeff and other officers in ACM Hack, so that you guys can learn all the basics that you would need to be successful if you're starting a career in web development. You're going to learn the core tools of web dev, starting off with the basics like HTML, CSS, JavaScript. If you're not familiar with what those are, we're going to talk about those in detail a little bit more today and in the future weeks. This is designed to be fun, friendly, and practical. Yes, all of these skills you can learn online. You can learn it through YouTube. You can have AI do it for you. But we're providing an opportunity to give you an environment to meet other people, to talk to other people, and to learn from current UCLA students in a way that's digestible and easy to understand. Additional useful tools we'll be going over in this series in later weeks are going to be GitHub, how to push and pull requests, resumes for when you're applying for jobs, and LeetCode, if you've heard of that, which is great for interview prep. And the great thing about Hackschool is that there's no prior experience needed. So whether you're starting out your web dev journey or you just need a refresher on your skills, Hackschool is meant for people of all experience levels, but specifically for beginners. So if you don't have any background in web development at all, but you want to get involved, it doesn't matter what your background is, you're in the right place. A little quick introduction of the team. So who's going to be teaching you guys? Hi, I'm Lorelei, she, her pronouns. I'm a third-year computer science major here at UCLA. And this is my co-director.
Yeah, I'm a second-year CS major.
Yeah, and we're going to be the directors. We're organizing Hackschool for you guys, and we're going to be presenting some of the slides. But as the weeks go on for the future workshops, we're also going to have our lovely curriculum members, Lavender, Sebastian, and Arnav, also presenting slides. And then a couple other people here for support, like Melissa, Shiu, Max, and Hannah, who's sitting right over there. She's one of the C-Presidents for Hack. So yeah, these are going to be all the people on the team that are going to be helping guide you through these workshops. All very, very cool people, I can attest. And hopefully we're approachable, so you can always come to us, ask us for questions, any sort of advice in computer science or something related. Lots of people here have worked very, very, very impressive internships and have very impressive resumes. So I would definitely recommend you connect with these people. Okay, and before we get into HTML and CSS specifically, I want to address the elephant in the room, which is AI, or artificial intelligence. AI is huge in the tech industry right now. And if you already have some background in web development, you probably know HTML, CSS, JavaScript, files like that can be easily developed. So you're probably wondering, why would you learn web dev yourself when you can just have AI do it for you in seconds? Well, that's why we have Hackschool. As of right now, while AI is super cool and super capable and has so many different features that you can use, it's still just a tool. To develop projects, you still need that human aspect, and you still need someone to envision the project, to guide AI down the right track. And if you don't understand how the backend works, how the front end works, and how these languages are encoded, it's going to be a lot more difficult for you to be able to interact with those tools. AI generates code, but what it generates isn't always correct. It's not always right, and you may run into a ton of bugs. It could also not be what you envisioned, and then you have to go and spend extra time trying to fix it all yourself. And if you don't have those basic skills, you won't know how to interact with it. For example, again, debugging, context window limits, security. Like for example, if you've ever interacted with AI yourself, you might like send it some stuff and it'll forget it a couple chats down. That sort of thing is what is really useful for knowing these skills yourself. It's if you can code it from the ground up, it'll help you interact with these tools a lot better. And then also just knowing how stuff works under the hood is just generally super helpful. And here's a relatable meme. If you've ever vibe coded before, actually raise your hand if you're a first year. So we got a lot of first years, second years. Awesome. And then third and fourth years. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. How many of you guys have never coded anything before? Like don't know anything about web development? It's completely fine because this is the place to be. Okay, yay. So this will be great. And then how many of you guys have some sort of experience in coding, whether that be vibe coding through AI, you know all of this already? Okay, awesome. Okay, yeah. But if you've ever vibe coded before and you plug it into AI, you're like, oh yeah, I just outputted all these files, but now you have to spend forever debugging it because it doesn't work as intended. So yeah, for Hackschool, how this is going to work, we're going to have weekly 1-hour workshops. So every week on Thursday, just for an hour in this room, we're going to have workshops that are independent per topic. So you don't have to attend all of them if it's too big of a commitment, because there'll be really crucial aspects that you'll need to be successful in web development. There's going to be follow-on code sessions, mini challenges, and optional take-homes to really refine the skills that you learn in these workshops. And if you attend consistently, aka filling out the form that we had the QR code for at the beginning, hopefully you get a shout out at the end of the quarter, and we'll see where that goes depending on attendance. And by the end, obviously, you'll be a pretty cool person and you'll see lots of memes. So yeah, hopefully this is fun. This is meant to be a fun way to learn this so that you don't have to go and do this on your own. And it's not supposed to be a chore. It's supposed to be interactive and really engaging. So that being said, right before we go into all the topics, this is a brief roadmap of where we're going to be going every week. So if there's a specific topic you're really interested in, attend that session. But obviously, it would be great if you attended all the sessions because all of this information is very helpful. Today, we're going over HTML and CSS specifically, so it's a really beginner, really intro-friendly. Next week, we'll be going over JavaScript, which is the main language that almost every website is being developed in with like Next.js or Node.js. Those are all in JavaScript. React is also really helpful. And then GitHub and VS Code settings, resumes, leak code, and how to vibe code. All of those are going to be really important tools that you can have to build up your skills to eventually prepare you for a career in web development. At this point, does anybody have any questions about how Hackschool works? Yes, in the back? Yes. It'll be in this room every week, 6 to 7 p.m. Any other questions? All right, then let's jump into the content. I'm going to switch it over to Jeff. And if you need the link to the slides, if you came in late, here it is again.
Okay, good job. Okay, so let's move on to the content. So, what happens when you search a URL? You're given a website just like this, and this is formatted HTML and CSS, but as you can tell, it's probably really old and does not have a lot of features. This is probably a basic version of a website, and there's many more fancy ways you can change this website. All right, so what is web development? Let's get into what the basics are. So front-end development basically has to do with the features that you see and interact with on the website. So this can be the colors, the layout, and the navigation. And then in order for your website to actually do something, let's say you want to log in and it goes into a database and it retrieves your account. That is the back-end development. It has to do with parts of the website that you can't see, and particularly how the website information is stored and retrieved. So if you want to input some information and then have your website stored for later use, you would put that into a database and then you would code like a server to retrieve that and display it into your front end. All right, so some basic web development languages that you should probably know if you want to get into web dev is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So in this workshop, we're going over HTML and CSS. HTML is basically the content of your website. So all the words that you see will probably be written in HTML. The CSS is what styles the content. So if your content has like a link or something, or you have a, let's say it's bigger than another word, then that's usually written in CSS, and that's how you style your HTML. The JavaScript basically performs the logic of your website, and it makes it interactive. So as you can see, here are some frameworks. So of the front end languages, basically, you can see a popular front end framework is React. What that basically means is it makes your coding much easier because it's already pre-written code. So it's called a framework. And recently, React has gotten much more popular. So as you can see in 2016 to basically now, React has basically gone up really high. So some of your favorite websites are probably written in React, such as Uber and Netflix. So React is widely used and very common. And we'll be getting to React, I think, in a later workshop. So let's start learning how to actually write HTML. First, you guys will need to download Visual Studio Code. Can I see how many of you have already downloaded or have that on your computer? Okay, I'll give like some people some time if you haven't downloaded that. All right, I think we can move on. So HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. Hypertext is basically the links that you can click up, and markup means basically like annotating your words. So making it bold, italicizing it, and stuff like that. So HTML uses tags to change the structure and content of your page. So there are multiple tags. Here are the most basic ones. HTML basically defines your HTML document. The head is basically how you want to like links that you want and stuff like that. The title is your title and body, and H1 is basically your header. P would be like text that you want to put on your thing, and A would be a reference or a link. All right, so here we can see like an example website that you might want to make using HTML. So welcome to Hackschool would be your title, and here we can see some topics. You can have a paragraph, and then you can also have lists. So here we want HTML, CSS, JavaScript as a list, React, and events and state, all as a list. And then you can have a button as well called Click Me. And how do we actually write this in HTML? Here, you can see you just surround the text that you want in tags. So you usually have a starting tag called whatever you want. So H1, and then you would end the tag using a forward slash and then the same letters. So here we have welcome to Hackschool. That, as you can see, that formats that and makes it bigger and bold. Here's some topics we will be covering. That's a paragraph, and then some lists. Here we also have a button called Click Me. All right, so how do you start writing code in VS Code? First, you will need to create a folder, obviously. So you can click anywhere on your desktop or maybe in your downloads folder and create a new folder. So you would right click and click on new folder. And then after you have your folder, you would go into VS Code, and usually there's a button there called, you can open a folder through VS Code, or you can go to the top left and click File and Open Folder. So after you've opened your folder, you would want to create a new file, obviously. You can do that using VS Code. There's a little button on the top left, as you can see there, and just click on that. It'll create a new file, and then you can name it anything you want. And then if you want to make an HTML file, you would do any name .html, and that would create an HTML file for you. So if you want to open the HTML file in your browser, so any like HTML code that you write in your file, and then you want to display it in Google Chrome, for example, you would open the folder on your desktop and then right-click the file and then click open with Google Chrome. You can usually also just click on the file itself and it'll open it in your default browser. But here we can make it more make it more specific by clicking open with, and then you can open your HTML file in Google Chrome if you want. And then remember that you have to save your file by pressing Command S. That would save your changes to your file. And then if you made a change, you would refresh the browser and that would show your new changes after you save the file. All right, so let's try that ourselves. Okay, so here you have your desktop. You would just click new folder. You can name it anything you want. Name that demo.
See this screen. I know it's a little tiny.
Oh yeah. Not sure how to zoom in on a screen like this. Oh, actually that works. So I created a folder called demo, and then I would open VS Code. And then I would click open folder, and then you go to your desktop, and then I'll open this folder. And then here, there's a button to create a new file. I'll click that, and then I can name it like demo.html. And then I have my HTML file. Okay, great. Has
If you've already downloaded VS Code, you probably already know files and stuff. But if you haven't, feel free to raise your hand, and we can also come around and
yeah. Let me make that bigger. Are we good to move on?
Also, all of these steps are on the slides as well.
All right, great. So now we have that file and we can move on to more tags. All right, so here are some of the common tags again. You would normally start your HTML file using exclamation mark doc type. This basically tells your document or it tells VS Code that you want to make an HTML file, and without this, it would make it much more confusing. And then you would define an HTML document using HTML, and then a head, you would like use this to create metadata. That's basically data that you can't see, but like that's there essentially. Title would be a title for your document. So like what appears in your tab. Body would be the body, and H1 to H6 would be different heading sizes. So I think we have an example on the next slide, but yeah, and then P would be some text that you want to write. So here you can see the different sizes of H1. So if you want like a bigger title, you would use H1. If you want a smaller one, you could use something like H5. All right, so you could also create lists in HTML. You would do you can make a div that basically sections out a whole part of your HTML, and you can format it later so it's more convenient. And then there are two types of lists. You can make a UL or OL. A UL stands for unordered list, and OL stands for ordered list. So here you can see just like bullet points, and then for the ordered list, you would have numbers. And then you would surround your content with li, which stands for list, and then you would just close it with a /li. And make sure your LIs are within your ordered list or unordered list. Right. So you could also add links and images to your HTML. Here we add a image. So basically you would enter your source code, so your URL basically, and an alt, which basically means if your URL is not working or your image can't display, it'll show the description instead. So that's just in case it doesn't work. And then for a link, you would do href and your URLs or the path to your link. And you can surround it in a closing bracket and then put content between the starting A and the closing A, which would hyperlink that text. So here are some other types of text. You could bold, line break, underline, or create a button. For a line break, you don't need a closing tag. All right. Do you guys have any questions about tags? No? Yeah?
Does it like matter? Like, does the order matter in like the way we put the tags? Like, is it if we want like a title, we should put at the top?
Yeah. Normally you would put like head on the top, right? And then you would put your body below that.
And
But yeah. Go ahead.
then, just like then HTML just determines it essentially based on.
Yeah. So like if you put like a paragraph below another paragraph, that paragraph would show first, right?
The other thing about HTML is that it is nested. So there's different parts of HTML. So when you have a whole page, it's going to be within different elements. I'm pretty sure Jeff is going to show this on the demo, but you'll see after you insert doc type, every new element you add that's nested within the page is going to be indented and wrapped in these tags that Jeff just talked about. So probably you want to do the demo first and then.
Yeah. Okay. So here you would start off with doc type or so here you would do doc type and then you would start with HTML and then you need a head, right? We can populate that. Yeah. And then below this, you would usually create your body.
And so while Jeff is typing, what you can see is when in VS Code, it automatically does indents for you, but this is what I mean by nested. So within HTML, that's going to be the wrapper for the entire page. And head is obviously your heading, and then your header, and then the body is obviously going to be your body. And whatever you want in the header is going to be in the head section. Whatever you want in the body is going to be in the body section. So.
Okay, great. We can also in the head, we can make a title. So we can name this or we can just name this Hackschool. And then here, this is like the content of your page. So the title would actually just like you would see it. Let me open this. So in order to open this, you can go to your demo and then open with Google Chrome. It open here, right? I don't really have content right now, so it won't show anything, but you can see it like on the top tab, it says Hackschool. That's your title. And then within your body, you can also make a title. So you would start off with header, and we can do like H1, which would be the start of a heading, and then we can name this like hi, my name is Jeff, right? And then this should write it here. So you can see it right there. We can also add, let's see, we can create a div. So what this does, it basically sections out this statement. So in case we want to format it later, we could do that. So basically you can have multiple divs in your body and then format that later. So we can do like a P and be like, what do you want to write? My hobbies, right? Or we can make this H2 and it'll also appear. So here's here. And let's say we wanted to add an image, right? What you can do is take your image from here, and then you can drag it onto here, and we'll add it. And then, like before, we can add an image. So you do image, and then you can the source of that would be, since I already put it into this folder, you could just write the name, so hack.png, and then we need like an alt in case it doesn't work. So we can do hacking. This won't show right now since I think the image should work, but in case it doesn't work, it'll just show the text. See. Right. So you can see the image has been placed on the screen. All right. We can also create lists. So we can make another div. And then here we can make like a ordered list and have multiple list elements. So my hobbies would include basketball, swimming, oops, and I'm gonna write tennis, right? So if you go back here, it should show down here. So it's really small right now. We'll fix that later with the CSS. So, but everything is here. You just can't see it that well. Oh, oops. Well, it's right here. Yeah. You guys can try that on your own and let me know if you guys have any questions.
Show of hands, how many of you guys are able to actually like open the doc and start building your own like website? Is there anybody that's having issues with this? Also, if you came in late, the check-in or the sign-in form and these slides are in the description. Okay, everyone's good? Thumbs up, we can move on. Thumbs down, stay,
I'll give them like 2 more minutes. Yeah. All right. Should we move on or you guys want more time to play around with it? Yes? All right. I think we'll move on. All right. So that was HTML, but you have to remember HTML is only the content. It's the CSS that makes it look pretty and describes the style. So what is CSS? It stands for Cascading Style Sheets. CSS controls the appearance and layout of the web pages and uses customizable rules that define the style of your elements. It specifies properties such as color, like font size, fonts, and positioning of your elements. A style sheet is a collection of rules that determine how a web page is visually presented. So basically, it just changes your HTML to make it look like what you want it to look like. All right. So why is it called cascading? It's called cascading because styles are decided in a priority order to determine which file final appearance is actually displayed. So let's say you have multiple styles on an element. CSS will determine which style takes priority. So that's why it's called cascading. So let's take a look at some of the syntax of CSS. Here, we define a selector called body, and we use curly brackets, and we can specify what color we want the body to be. So here, we specify that to be red. The property, so color is a property of the body, and red is a value. Make sure that you have a colon between the property and the value, and make sure you end it with a semicolon. In the end, after you're done with all of your the properties that you want to change, make sure you end it with a semicolon. Sometimes it won't give you an error, but it's good practice to always end your lines with a semicolon. All right, so here are more examples of CSS. Here we change the element, or here we change H1 and change that color to be pink. All right, so here is some of the very popular selectors that you would change. So like font family, the font size, the color, like border, margin, padding is very common. And you can find a full list of it if you click that link if you're on the slides. But yeah, all of these are very common and you would probably use them a lot. All right, so how do you like connect your CSS file to your HTML file? You would first need to make a CSS file, right? So it's basically the same thing as the HTML file. You would create a new file and then end a file name with .css to create a CSS file, and then link the CSS file to the head of your HTML file using when you do the head, you would add a link, and then you do rel, which stands for I think relation, and that basically defines what your file is. So we would always do style sheet, and then href would be what your CSS file is named, so that it can track your CSS file. And then basically you just add your rules according to you would take the tags from your HTML file and then change it in your CSS file. So what if you want to be more specific with your styles? You would add classes and IDs. So what this means is that normally with the standard name in your CSS file or the standard selector, it will change all of those tags. So if you do H1 curly bracket, it will change all of the H1 tags. But you can also specify what specifically you want to change using class and selectors. I mean class and IDs. For a class selector, you would do dots and then the name of your class, and then everything else is the same. For IDs, you would do hashtag and then your ID name. So we'll show you how to do that in your HTML file or how to connect it to your HTML file. And yeah, classes are applied to multiple elements, while an ID is only unique to one tag. And an ID takes priority over a class. So yeah, you guys should know that. So for any HTML element, you can add class or ID attributes. So here we add a class attribute to H1, and anything with a myClass class that you change in your CSS file would also change hello world. For ID, we set that equal to my ID, and that would change the welcome to my website, but that would only change this one P. All right, so here's some examples of classes. To your HTML file, you would add the class equals to whatever class name that you want. And then in your CSS file, you would do dot and then your class name, curly bracket, and then the stuff that you want to change. So here's an example of an ID. In your HTML file, you would basically do the same thing. ID equals your name, and then hashtag your ID name, and then any properties that you want to change as well. So in CSS, you can also change the layout of your tags, and that helps. This is usually done using something called Flexbox. This allows you to arrange elements within a container, and it distributes spacing and aligns content dynamically. Normally, you would do this by using display::flex. That would change it into a Flexbox. And then there's many different properties. I'm not sure if you guys can see, but this this chart basically shows like all the different types of Flexbox that you can change it to. So in addition, how do you get more fonts? You can search up the font on Google Fonts and then select the font that you want. Select import and copy import, and then paste your statement on top of your CSS file, and then you'll be able to use your font. So there you can see that you import a link, and you would just copy and paste that. So do you guys have any questions about CSS in general? No? Okay. Let's move on to the demo. Here we can add a new file, and then we'll name it like style.css. And then you would you can change any part of this that you want. First, we can add it to our HTML file. So here, you could do or actually let's change it first. You do you can change your body, and then you can change the color of this, or you can change any part of your body that you want. We can first change the color. So change it to white. That just finds the body to be white. And then we can change where the text is. So we can do text align. We can make this the center. And this should actually I need to link it first, but you can just write it first. You can also change H1. So that would change, let's change the color to be purple. We can change the font as well. So here we can do font family. We can do sans serif. And yeah. We can also add classes. So let's say in this div you want to add a class, you would be hobbies. And then you can change stuff about this. I think the image is a little big right now, so you can also change that. You can specify, since we have multiple divs, you would use this class to specify this div. So here you could do dot hobbies. And then if you want to change the tag just in one class, you would do image, and you can change the width of this. So we can change that to 300 pixels. Yeah. And after this, you can change what, or you can link it first. And then you can do source, and then, oh, not source, rel goes to style sheet, and then source goes to, right? So, oh, oops. Href. This, and then that changes it. Right? Yeah, yeah. You change this here, that should change that. And then you can also change like some of the list properties. So if we change this, we use the ID here, and then you can change this to like sports. And then here, do sports and font size to like 20 pixels. And then this should change it to be a little bigger. And yeah, you guys have any questions?